that they're for things like ethics reform and accountability and investment in our city. I can show you, and I've been with you in DC for Democracy on various issues. Let's talk about ethics reform. I was a leader of Initiative 70. Many people seated here signed the petition forms to ban corporate contributions in our local elections. I also was engaged with DC for Democracy in opening up our budget negotiations so that the most important document that the DC Council considers every year is debated before the public. That was not true until 3 years ago. Let's talk about accountability. Everyone here talks about how important jobs are. I have taken a look at our city's budget and created a workforce map to show how we spend our job training dollars. I also have been engaged with DC for Democracy in investing in our city, investing in things like job training for folks on public assistance, investing in our schools, and investing in our public spaces like our libraries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alyssa. Paul Zuckerberg.
Thank you. Excuse me. My name is Paul Zuckerberg. I came to DC in 1981 to go to American University Law School. Got married, 2 kids. I live in Adams Morgan, and I'm running for council because I'm not happy with the choices that we have. I don't think we need any more lobbyists or any more politicians, professional politicians on the council. I think we need real people to solve real problems. Now, many of you know me because I've come out for decriminalization of marijuana. But I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about some other issues. I want to talk about health care. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, kicks in October 1. We said we were going to set up our own health exchanges, and we haven't done it. We're not ready. Our president has laid it on the line in 2 elections, and he has put his full credibility on the line for health care. And now it's up to us to implement it. Because if Obamacare, if the Affordable Care Act is a failure, then our president will have failed, and the next election is going to look a lot different than this one. Now, on October 1, when all of you log on to that website, and it goes live on October 1, I want you to be happy with what you see there. I want you to be happy with the choices. I want you to be happy with the prices. And I want you to see the dream of health care, which has been a dream since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which has finally come to fruition. We cannot drop the ball. I want people, when they think of DC, to finally see a success and say, hey, look at DC, which is treated just like any other state in the Affordable Care Act. Be a success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your opening statements. And without any delay, we'll go on to the Q&A part. First question, and I'll ask Paul and then Alyssa and down the line to answer in order. Mayor Gray and CFO Gandhi have announced a surplus of, the question says 400 to 450 million. I think they did say 417, right? Right. For fiscal year 2012. Quite simply, what do you think should be done with that money?
Well, first of all, I don't think, and I know this may not be popular here, I don't think we should jeopardize our AAA rating on Wall Street. We worked a long time to get our credit rating in a positive state, and that gives us an opportunity to borrow money at good rates. So that being said, we have to be cognizant. I don't want to get back. We're not going to get statehood if our credit rating is in the basket. You can forget about that. So we need to protect that. But we can push back. We can push back and get a large part of that $417 million. The reason why we needed a reserve was because of this fiscal cliff. The Republicans are pushing us toward the fiscal cliff, and so we needed a reserve. If that issue is past us, we can push back and get that money released for the programs that we need.
Alyssa,
How much time do we have, Jerry?
1 minute
1
for
minute,
responses.
So I think that we should use part of the surplus to address some of our unmet needs in the city. Now, what the $417 million is basically leftover money that the auditor found we didn't spend, or our taxes came in more robust than we thought. Our fund balance right now, our savings account, what Mayor Gray and the CFO say is that we should put that money in our savings account. Our savings account is $1.1 billion, which is more than 20% of our current operating revenues. I think we should put part of the money into fund balance and then part for something called the Housing Production Trust Fund, which is the best tool we have in our toolkit, municipal toolkit, to create affordable housing. I think we have an affordable housing crisis in this city, and I think we should put the money toward the trust fund.
Thank you. Mr. Settles.
Thank you. So I think a combination of both. Obviously, we need to shore up our finances, but this is money that we hadn't planned on and we found, and so obviously I'm hoping that we had budgeted for the cliff. So I'd like to see 117 million of the 417 go into investments. You know, I have 3 kids in the public schools. We are in an outdated building where we have wonderful teachers, we have wonderful students, wonderful facilities, but the building has not been renovated in probably 40, 50 years. It was initially built in 1930, and the plan was for phase 2, which never has been built. We have other great schools like Banneker that do a great job, but are still in outdated facilities, so I think we have to invest in some of our important facilities, and starting with our educational facilities. I agree with Alyssa, we've got to invest in affordable housing options. I think the Affordable Housing Trust should be one piece of it, but I think there are other creative ways that we can leverage that money into broader affordable housing, and not just affordable housing for 60 to 80% AMI. I think we've got middle-class families that are struggling with housing prices. And lastly, I think we need to put dollars into shoring up our early childhood program, because there's issues with our young people under the age of 3 not being prepared.
Thank you. Surratt?
Sure. The surplus, $417 million. I never believe in expending an entire surplus. I do believe half of it should be put back in our city's treasury. Although we're $1.5 billion in the black, and that's a good thing. But I do believe that $217 million of the remaining $417 million should go to the, like Alyssa alluded to, the Housing Production Trust Fund. I believe that a portion of that, of course, allotted to homeless services. I believe that returning citizens coming back, their employment and training networks need to be shored up. And I also would expend another $50 million of that on our disabilities, and then a cyber inclusion initiative that I'm introducing.
This mic doesn't go to any recording device, does it?
Sorry?
I don't need to speak into this for recording, do I?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not for recording purposes. No.
Okay. Just want to make sure. These forums differ from forum to forum. $417 million is a lot of money. If you're a state anywhere in the United States and one day you come up with $417 million, that's pretty nice. Now, looking at the big picture, I agree with Mr. Zuckerberg. We have to keep focused on our credit rating. We are, even though it's not fair, we are held to a higher standard. Keeping our eye on the prize, autonomy, voting rights, statehood. We need to maintain that higher standard. No, that's not fair, but we do. Now, realistically, while I would save the money, there are 13 other people, there are 12 other people on the DC Council. I doubt everyone's going to want to save the money. So what is my head says to save the money? What would my heart say when every other council member gets their hands on the money? Look, I would consider, as I said before, I've been all over the city looking at schools. There is a huge disparity. You know, people talk about librarians, school libraries. There's huge disparities between schools, both public and public charter. And I also would consider housing, but I'm sure we'll have another question about housing a little bit, hopefully.
Proven.
So part of the reason that we have this huge surplus is we had over-conservative estimates of what our revenue would be. And we have a law that says that all the surplus should go to paying down, to going into the trust fund. And you can't do that. You can't lowball your projection and then take all of the surplus and sock it away in saving, prohibiting us from spending on the things that are so important. So what I think we need to do, we need to be true to the idea of strengthening the reserve, but as others have said, take half the money, use it for compelling needs now. The affordable housing is one of those compelling needs. The safety net, particularly for homeless youth, is another one of those compelling needs. Part of the reason that we have this revenue is because there are all these new residents who are finding our communities attractive, and investments in parks and rec centers and libraries are another way to reinforce the dynamic that led to the surplus in the first place and can lead to other revenue streams in the future.
Thank you. Anita Barnes?
You know, like my colleagues here, I'd like to think that we could spend the money particularly on the needs that we find in the District of Columbia.